We live? Alright. Hey y'all. So today I'm chatting with Devanne Pena. She's a freelance architect in Austin, Texas. Has been pretty much killing it. She's very known for actually working on creating one of the most important buildings actually in the Austin area right now, which is the Dell Medical Center, which was like a $400 million project. And I'm here going to talk to her a little bit about her experience as an architect, one, as well as how she's kind of navigated her career and some tips that she can share with some of the people viewing right now. So it's nice for y'all to be watching. So Devanne, I would love for you to talk a little bit about yourself as far as what you do as an architect and how you got into that position.
Okay, I'm Devanne Pena. I'm an architect in Austin. I just got licensed last year. It's a 7-exam, 5,600-hour process after completing at least 5 years of school. And I came down to Texas and I actually lived in Laredo, Texas first for a year because that was my foot in the door opportunity. I worked at a small firm, but I really hopped jobs a lot. I worked at a firm that did civic architecture, affordable housing, another that did affordable housing. I worked with a general contractor, and then last at Page where I was working in commercial and university work.
That's awesome. So how did you get into architecture? Was that the first job that you decided that you wanted, or position? So what was that? What was the story behind that?
The first job, or the job prior to architecture, or being an architect, I wanted to be an ice cream truck driver.
Okay.
First of all, don't laugh at my dreams. So I wanted to become an architect super young. I was 7 when I chose that, and I never changed my focus. I just always wanted to do it, and it's really hard to explain how because I didn't know any architects. I didn't even meet an architect until I went to college. The representation of African Americans and other minorities super low in architecture, but I really clung to it. And then in high school, I was before STEM was kind of the term, I was in the Integrated Systems Technology Academy, which was a program within my high school, and I got to learn how to do a lot of different engineering systems like pneumatics, hydraulics, all these other things, but drafting and art were what I really clung to.
Yeah. And
my high school counselor, her son was in the architecture program at the design school at NC State, so she guided me on how to put together a portfolio, and that's how it started.
So for the people out there right now who are probably the students out there putting together their portfolios and kind of getting ready to start their careers, what would be some of the tips that you have for them on how they should assemble their portfolio, and also how they should start pitching and selling themselves as engineers, as designers, or whatever else they're interested in?
I would say having a diverse portfolio and really going back to what you want and researching what the schools provide. For instance, there's only 2 architecture schools that it has to be NAAB accredited for you to get an actual license in architecture eventually. So there's only 2 in North Carolina. One was more technical, and then one was more, I don't want to say Bauhausian, but that just means like on the design theory and methodology. And that's the school I chose to go to because I did gravitate more to the arts than to the sciences. But I can't remember the rest of about putting your portfolio together.
And pitching yourself.
Okay, so just as diverse as it can be, getting as much experience in the most random areas you can think of that still pertain to what you do. I can't say for my own portfolio because I really started from the bottom. Mine was like scanned in on some 11 by 17s. Yeah. It was like, if I looked, I don't even have it anymore. Like, I don't know.
But you started somewhere.
I started somewhere.
Because I think a lot of students always think they have to have the most perfect portfolios, that it has to have all the best designs, that they have to be like expert level.
No, sir. That you learn all that in school. Like, you're going to learn your programs, whether it be a creative suite program or more of a technical. Like, yeah, a lot of people get started earlier in high school and then they come really forward with that stuff. But now you can get trials of any software. So if you research your field and see what the leading technologies are in those fields, you can download trials and test them out and maybe try to find some people that can help guide you on those programs.
So when you started off in your career, how did you go about choosing where you wanted to work? What were the criteria, culture, and let's say what the type of work that company has already done? What are some of the things that you were looking out for when talking to recruiters or hiring managers, or questions that you were asking?
So in architecture, at least when I was in school and the school I went to, there wasn't so many recruiters. We had one day that a bunch of people came and we got to do these little interviews, but I'm telling you, like, I came a long way from Fayetteville, North Carolina. Like, I wasn't the most articulate person. I was freaked out by everybody. Like, I couldn't speak in front of people. I had a hard time, but I I graduated 5 years ago, and it's really been a crazy curve since then. And if you just want it and you put in the work and you invest it and set those intentions and goals and stay flexible in the method and how you get there, then you're fine. It doesn't matter where you begin, because you're at the biggest capacity to learn right now.
That's good. I love it. So you're a freelancer right now, and you're picking up your own gigs, as they come. How are you doing that? Because a lot of people maybe in our community want to get into freelance but may have full-time jobs. How do they balance that, situation?
Well, let me wind it back, because I realized I didn't answer part of your question. I didn't, like I said, with the whole hiring recruiter, that stuff didn't happen for me. So I went where I had to go to get wherever I wanted to go. I've been in Austin for 4 years, but I lived in Laredo, Texas before. Yeah. That's like, there's nothing. It's it's a border town. It's 98% Mexican. I don't speak Spanish, but it was like the best cultural experience. I have like the closest friends that I'm still cool with, and it was really the springboard for the rest of my career, because it was a tiny firm, so we got to do a whole lot of everything.
So you started small. You weren't looking to go for the Google and architect. You were looking to go.
I didn't have the portfolio. Literally, I had my college. I
think a lot of students, they always want to go for the Googles, the Facebooks, as soon as they come out of college, but they don't realize there's a lot of opportunity to kind of build up your skill set.
Yeah.
If you go for maybe that small firm, they'll give you a lot of different work.
Exactly. Like, I learned so much, and it gives you confidence too, because then I went to working in construction, which it's scary to leave architecture because you do have to fulfill all these hours, and I'm like, is this going to put me behind? But it really propelled me forward, because I learned the other side where, when I was in architecture, I was drawing, I was drafting, I was designing, but I didn't understand how buildings came together and how they were built and how conflicts were resolved in the field in real time. And that knowledge was so valuable. And there are alternate hours that you can get while you're in construction, because traditionally you have to be under an architect, but there's loopholes for everything. But I would just say where you're learning is where you need to go, period. It doesn't matter if it's this huge company or not. And I found a lot of, I went all the way from North Carolina to Laredo, so had there been the Google of architecture in Laredo, Texas, it might have been harder to adjust. Yeah. So I was at this small, very family-oriented firm. They set me up with my apartment. They invited me to carne asadas after work and all this other stuff. So it just worked for me. I wouldn't say don't go to the large companies, but I would say don't discredit the small ones too.
I love that.
So I bounced around quite a bit. I've worked at, 5 different firms in construction jobs since I started, and that's part of the way I was able to financially build, just because when I wasn't able to contribute to my 401k at such a high rate, but I was keeping it on the market and allowing it to build pretty aggressively. And then 2 years later, I had this job, not my current freelance, but the last job that I just left, and then I was able to save a lot at a higher rate, so they ended up being the same amount of money. So I was like, well, if I started, I'd have this, so let me go ahead and liquidate this and add this to my fund for my startup of my own person.
And she's breaking it down. She really breaking it down.
That's just my hustler.
No, that's good, because some people don't know how to really manage that, especially if you're going from job to job early on in your career, and you're trying to still be able to build for your 401k and your retirement. So I love how you broke it down.
Right, and I didn't go in knowing that. It was just, I was going with what felt right 99% of the time. It was just like, okay, where do I need to go? What feels right? Where am I going to learn more? Am I learning a new technology? Am I learning in software? Am I learning a new skill? Or, it was all about learning for me.
I love it. So talk about you being a freelancer now and having to manage finding new jobs?
Well, I initially resigned from my position just to go travel. I wasn't trying to freelance at all. I thought about starting my own firm, and I actually like kind of blasted that out that I was, and I was looking into it, and I'm still not sure what the foundation of what kind of company I want to have, or if I want to go back to a different kind of firm. I'm not sure. After my travels, I think I'll figure that out. So I'm just kind of, but I actually found my first client because I was doing Hurricane Harvey relief, and their location was just a drop off, and I just made random connections there, and I was with them the whole day. And then a couple months later, or not even a couple, 1 month later, I got a call, and they were like, "Hey, we want you to come in and discuss this project." And then they happened to they were a business, so they owned a bunch of, it wasn't like a singular client that owned some land. It was a business that owned a lot of land. So they're like, "We want you to do this project, and then this project, and then this." And I'm like, whoa, straight out. And just because, I built my portfolio over the past few years. I've worked on a variety of different projects. I understand construction and contracting, administration, all that side of it, bidding and negotiate, you name it. I know.
You know the process.
I know the process.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not heavily experienced in each area, but when you observe other architects and other professionals, you can only keep so much on the plate. Yeah. So something's gonna fall off. So if you know the course in which you need to go to get the next piece of information, where mentorship actually plugs in for me as a mentee, and that, because I wasn't big in writing contracts, I was like, I don't want to get sued, I don't know how to do this, I don't know how much to ask for, all that stuff. So I went to one of my mentors and asked him about it, because he's a vetted architect, and he, broke it down for me, sent me all this information, and I was able to put it together and send out a package.
But you weren't scared to ask him, though, right? You were completely open about it. I think a lot of people sometimes are scared, a little bit reluctant, to say, I don't know this. I need your help. Yeah.
And it's because I built the relationship with him that I did. He actually got me my job at Page. His name's Robert Hill. He's one of the only other black architects in Austin. There's only, altogether, I think there's 10 or 12. It's a really low number. But when I moved to Austin, I reached out. I just Googled black architects in Austin. And we actually happen to have a directory, a nationwide directory. Wow. So that's how I know I'm the 375th black woman architect, because we have a directory that's been put together for the last 30 years. Wow. I found him, I emailed him, and I got lunch with him for a year, only every few months. But then I started working at Page after that, and then I continued to get lunch with him and go by his desk and talk to him and all that stuff.
And just proactive about keeping the relationship going.
Right.
Because a lot of people don't realize, a lot of people, where people veer off in terms of developing relationships, is following up. Yeah. Right? They stop following up, they stop reaching out, and they stop just being present in the person that they want to be a mentor's life, or someone that they think could potentially be of help to them.
Absolutely, and that's happened to me a bunch when I've been at conferences, and young designers will come up to me and be like, "Hey, oh my God, I just wanted to get close to you or figure out what you." And I'm like, "Yeah, email me." Never get an email. Yeah. But then there's some that email me all the time, or if they're in studio right now, which is what you're in an architecture school called studio. And they'll email me a question every couple weeks, and I'll just email back, and it's really simple. There's ones that are more personal, like friends. And it depends on the nature of the relationship, but I would say Robert's more like a peer of mine, and he said that to me, and I was like, oh my God, I'm your peer. But I know his family, and he's come and support me at different events. Like when I was at the Black Chamber honoree ceremony, he came out to that. He knew somebody else too, but yeah, it's definitely it's a spherical relationship. Yeah. It's not just you get what you need from mentors, because they can get a lot from you too.
Absolutely. So tell me the 3 biggest things you've learned from the mentors in your life. The 3 biggest things.
Okay. Yeah. Visibility. I was about to put my middle finger up, so I'm gonna start with this.
I'm glad you did
it. Visibility is so important. Get your face, get your name, get your brand out there. I started with going to conferences, and at the conference they were doing this promotion for AIA, it's the American Institute of Architects, and they were trying to see the faces of AIA. So I went to that, and then I got plastered all over posters all over universities around the country and architecture schools, and just little things like that. Number 2, maybe, oh my gosh, you put me on the spot.
I know.
What have I learned from my mentors? reach back. Always reach back as you climb. I've had a mentor who's the current president of NOMA, the National Organization of Minority Architects, and he has looked out for me for my membership fees and things like that, or found somebody to help me out when I didn't have the funds or means to get there, and he's just like, pay it forward, you know. And then the third thing I would say would be to be yourself and be authentic. I found it really interesting. She's my friend, but she showed me that because she came to work for when I was working at the contractor, and at the time I was the only black person in the office. And she came to work, and she's also black, and she was just herself, and that was like back in 2013. And I realized, I was like, wow, I can be professional and be myself at work and have fun the way that everybody else has fun, and, you know, still get my work done and not worry about respectability politics in the workplace. And that's not exactly the most comfortable thing for everybody, but it's the most comfortable thing for me, and that's not my problem if somebody else isn't comfortable with that.
I love that. So visibility, be authentic, and the last one,
they'll know. Y'all remember.
But be visible, be authentic, and I think you mentioned follow up or pay it forward. Right?
Yeah, paying it forward.
Paying it forward.
There you go.
That's amazing. All right, so now we're gonna get questions from the people watching live, and see what they have to say, or have to ask you in terms of how you manage your time, being a freelance architect, and doing some of the things that you do. So let's check it out. Okay. So does anyone have any questions that they want me to ask Devin? Because I have some more questions. Okay. So no one has any questions yet, but one of the questions I was going to ask you is that when it comes down to kind of being a freelancer, how do you go about managing your time in terms of prioritizing how you handle and tackle the project you're working on, as well as like finding time for yourself?
That's the thing with architecture. If you're working on a building, that's pretty much the only project you're going to be, like, you'll be able to handle like one or two. But as far as I am an organization like guru. That is my area. It's just what I've always even liked to do. I used to like put pennies in order by year because it was fun for me. So anyway, I use Workflowy. Workflowy is one of my favorite apps to use for organizational skill. It basically is just like an exploded bullet system where you can just click on it and then it expands and expands and it's the best way to organize your thoughts, for real. And then also Evernote, and that's for specific projects, but then Evernote I use, I'm pretty sure people are more familiar with that one, but I put everything in my Evernote because you can really have different like notebooks. So I have like recipes, so like when you have all these things that are like swirling around in your head, and you can slowly build these like lists or these, I love a list. So I use those things. I'm not a really routine person, and I try to be, but I just realized that's just not for me. Like my last day is different than the next day. I wake up at different times now that I can, and but I always get my things done, and writing down what I did the day before helps me out, and it makes me feel like it makes me just visibly see how accomplished I've been in that day or in that week.
You never just cross off that I've done this task.
And because sometimes it's hard to feel productive when you're working on your own, or because you're not in a 9 to 5 clocking out, and you're not like, okay, I responded to these work emails because I'm over here, I'm reaching out to universities for speaking engagements, and I'm taking Portuguese because I'm going to move to Cape Verde, and they speak Creole, but it's mixed with Portuguese. So I'm trying to learn that base language. I'm taking classes with somebody there. I was taking improv classes. I even scheduled that in at one point, but it was helping with speaking skills, and just validating the things that aren't that are more investments now and not necessarily giving me drawbacks now. But
I love it. That's a great answer. So Leslie has a question. Is there a certain type of architecture you have an affinity for?
A certain type, public interest architecture. It's not exactly a building typology, but anything that serves people. That's one of the other reasons why I decided to go off and figure out what I wanted to do. I've always wanted to do architecture that helped the public and helped different communities really realize each individual's potential and have spaces in which that they can express and learn and play and all these things for children and adults to utilize. And right now I want to do that in Cape Verde, where my family's from. Originally, I've never even been. We've been in the U.S. since the early 1900s. So going back and just, rather than just putting my own stamp on Cape Verde, like, this is what y'all need, like, I really am just going for observation and design research, and then also self-discovery. But there's a few firms in the U.S. and abroad that do work that's similar. So after my trip, I might, reach out to them. I've already been in conversation with a couple of them, whether it's like contract work or full-time. I'm not sure yet. I'm just kind of letting life unfurl.
I love it. So how do you unwind with such a busy work schedule?
How do I unwind?
Yeah.
I love baths.
Hey.
I'm serious. I'm an introvert, as extroverted as I can be.
Yeah.
I'm super introverted. I need this amount of time to myself. I like to read. Spending time with my friends who are just as goofy and silly as me, that I can just let loose with. And people that love me, that I love, that I can give love to, and vice versa. And it's so integrated. My days are now so integrated where I'm not just having this large block of 8-hour work.
Yeah.
I might take a break and go grocery shopping, or I might take a break and go to Zilker or something like that, just because I can. And it's so freeing. And I realize it's such a privileged position, and I know throughout my life, as different life changes happening, it's not going to be the case. I won't be able to be as flexible as it is right now. So I'm really trying to take advantage and be grateful for what I have now, because my whole day is that's why I don't like to have a routine, because I'll be up 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. working, and then might go do something else, because in the daytime I was at the park, or going on a trail or something like that.
I love it. So one of the questions I told you I was going to ask you when you got here is, tell me about a time that you failed in your career and how you overcame it.
This is hard, because I was thinking about this question. Because I don't want to say, I've never failed. I've never failed. But I mean, your failure is to, in the eye of the beholder, I guess, and I don't feel like I've failed. There's definitely been, I've taken some L's for sure. I've definitely not got everything that I went after. Fellowships, grants, and all these other things. I've imagined my life in one way, and it didn't come out that way. But I never look at it as I've totally failed, because it always turned around for an opportunity, because I've always been so open. I grew up in low-income neighborhoods and that kind of thing with a single mom, and the fact that I just got so much, I never envisioned my life to what it is right now, so I'm always going to ask for the universe or God or whatever for anything. I don't feel like I can't do that, because I've already surpassed my own expectations.
Wow. I love it. That was powerful. That was a powerful answer. I love it. That was a great answer, actually. All right. Anyone have any more questions? I know, Udi, you're just tuning in. Do you have any questions for the phenomenal architect and designer, Devin? Tao? Anyone else? In case y'all don't, I think I may have one or two more questions for you, in case they don't. All right. So, while someone may be thinking, my question to you would be, so what are you currently working on right now? What's your next move?
So my next move, I am going to, all Q1 of 2018, I'm traveling. My total travels, so let's see. So basically, I was just planning to go to Cape Verde, but I was on Skyscanner and saw these flights in between, and I broke down the flights and saw the ones in between. I was like, I can spend a couple days here and maybe a week here. Yeah. So in doing that, I have a trip that's 10 countries, I feel, and I think I spent less than $1,600 on all the flights. So, but Skyscanner is the look for that. But so I'm going to London, Lisbon, Canary Islands, Cape Verde, the North Islands and the South Islands, and I'm spending most of my time there, 2 months, and then Morocco, Paris, Italy, Iceland, and then Toronto.
That's phenomenal.
And then Wisconsin, because I have a speaking engagement. I'm looking most forward to Wisconsin, y'all.
So Sarah just asked a question. Do you prefer working as a freelance architect or with companies? Also, what made you want to leave companies in the past, if you don't mind me asking?
Okay. I can't say I have a preference yet because this is real fresh, like October fresh. So I'm just getting into it. I think I'm humble enough to say, I have 5 years of experience, and if there's a type of architecture, public interest architecture specifically, that I haven't had experience in, as far as how you deal with those types of, like, how does an architectural practice work as a nonprofit? I could figure all that out and recreate the wheel myself, or I could spend a year or 2 or 5 or whatever, depending on what my position is at that firm and how they invest in me. It really depends on that. So I feel like I've already done the work to be at firms that didn't necessarily 100% align with what my goals were, but if I found a firm that 100% aligned, I would definitely be there, because the resources that are already there versus trying to find and start my own at this point in my career would be very beneficial. And the reason why I left was
why you left past companies.
Like, it didn't align 100% with what I was doing. There were some adversities that I faced, but for the most part, my dreams were just growing and growing and growing, and they just couldn't fit within getting, after work, because I'd be tired from like looking at a screen all day, and I was doing a lot of production. I wasn't doing a lot of design. And that wasn't, I'm a designer at heart, and a lot of the times at large firms, design is kind of in a pecking order, and you got to put your time in and that kind of thing, but that wasn't what was speaking to me, so I decided to go off on my own to seek some more design opportunities.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. That's a great question. So one of our viewers, Srikant, Chinu said that you should check out Hipmunk. It's a great travel app.
Cool.
So he's giving you a recommendation. Follow up with that later on.
I will. No, I need all the recommendations.
So last question from Leslie is, what are some of the natural skills you had that fit nicely into your field? What are the other skills you have to develop?
That's a great question.
Great question.
Okay, so naturally, like I said, I'm an organizer. I think architects, we are great at taking an idea that a client might have, or a person or a group or community might have, and really being able to present it in a visible way for everybody to kind of buy in, and then for it to be built or incorporated into your language. So those skills come naturally to me. Design comes naturally to me. I love to balance things and look at things and repetition and all the other principles of design, and like I just have an affinity towards it. I don't really know how else to put that into words, but the things that came harder for me, I would say public speaking, or just even holding my own. Like, I sound like I'm great now. I'm not saying I'm not faking the funk right now, but it's been an uphill battle, especially because when you look if you look different, people will treat you differently. I had, my high school drafting teacher told me I could get into MIT as the maid. He also made some other inappropriate comments towards me. I've had a teacher tell me that I wasn't serious enough for architecture my freshman year when I was 17 years old. Wow. And told me I should switch majors. I had a job in a performance review that I had a great review. At the end, they told me to try to fit in, and then I could be myself. I got called Angela Davis a lot at one firm. Like, there's a lot of things that went on that were just not that didn't fit where I was aligning with. So I knew what to do.
Wow, that's powerful. Thank you for sharing. All right, y'all, that's it. I appreciate you. So where can they follow up with you and just keep track of your work and journey, Devin?
Okay, my Instagram, which is half personal and half professional, it's Archi, ARCHI Dev. You can go to my website, www.devanpena.com, and then recently I just started a YouTube channel where I'm going to answer more of these questions and take video of when I'm in Cape Verde and what kind of research and findings that I have. And you can kind of route that through my Instagram. I don't even know what that is yet. I only posted 2 videos. But yeah, so that's my
And
those are my
your
contacts.
website, so they can see some of your former work and your amazing stuff.
Yeah, so there's different tabs on devanpena.com. You can look at my portfolio. I have a very inactive blog on there, and some of my sketches and things like that, and just things that align. I'm actually going to update it soon, so wait a couple weeks.
All right, that's it. So we appreciate you, Devin,
Yeah.
so much. Thank you for talking and just inspiring. What's the last thing you have to say to the people, to the community?
Be you, do you, work hard, do it, you got it. If I can do it, you can do it.
I love it. All right, so thank you everyone for watching live, and anyone who's going to watch later, share, tell a friend how much you loved it, and I'll be sharing some announcements soon, so appreciate you guys that watch live. So, bye community.